So these are the kind of wireframes that people make. These wireframes only depict how your page is going to be laid out and where what is going to be. So it's a kind of an outline for the client or the boss to know how you're planning to design the website, how you're planning to arrange the content, and so on and so forth. So if you just Google up wireframes, you will see a lot of wireframes. And you can do it on pencil and paper. You can see these drawings are really nice. You can always have a really nice drawing like this. And you can almost visualize the web page that's going to happen from this sketch. Okay? And even the sketch gives you an indication of what kind of a graphic will go pretty well here, and you can go spend some time, walk on the beach, and you can easily get a photograph with land on one side, water on one side of this sort. So you can use Photoshop to get your wireframes. You have got this tool, and you have a stylus and a tablet, and you can draw. I'm just going to start with a very tiny brush and with a very light pencilish color. Now Shift key gives me a straight line. So if I just click and just press Shift, I get a straight line instead of trying to do that. Even that works. So let's say that's going to be my nav. I can roughly plan the look and feel of my website. And I can start marking areas out for my page. Whatever you do with your wireframe, it's just a plan for you to set things in place. I spent some time looking at some good sites. There used to be a very popular site, coolhomepages.com. It was my aim to get into Cool Home Pages, and I did get listed very briefly in 2007. I got listed here, and it was just before my assignment submissions. So during my university presentations, I actually opened it up and I say, oh, by the way, this assignment has got listed here. So I was actually trying to put pressure on the teacher to give me a 7 out of 7, and it worked. So the whole idea was, man, I got listed at Cool Home Pages. They think I'm good, so you got to give me 7 out of 7. But it's really got some nice designs, and there are two things I used to spend some time looking at good designs here. One is the color scheme and one is the layout. Now, color scheme, we will have our Photoshop color in day and do the kind of stuff we enjoyed as a kid. We'll do a coloring in. I'll give you some sketches, just color it in, and we'll actually apply color schemes. I usually use two color schemes, one in the front, one in the back. So you have a foreground and a background kind of color scheme. And I also use this page a lot, wellstyled.com. Wellstyled.com. It has got tools. It's got 3 tools. This site gets a few million hits a day. A lot of designers use it. The new version of this color scheme generator. So suppose I use a complementary scheme, and I like at least 2 colors. Suppose I use a complementary scheme. I can ask it to generate a light page example. So I like the colors, but how do I use the colors? So what this color scheme is suggesting is, by and large, you use one of the colors and various shades of it mixed with black and white, and at some places you use the complementary color as a punch color. This is known as a punch color. So it's like, you're having this meal and you suddenly get this spice, you get that zing. So that's what this is. It's all orange and suddenly you get the blue. Now all of this works at a subconscious level. Okay, colors don't work at a conscious level. Design really works at a subconscious level, and it's proven fact. In fact, when Coke finalized on the red for the brand, they had it removed from the Pantone color sets. So the Pantone color sets don't have the Coke red. So it is owned by Coke, that particular red. Of course, with digital media, varying levels of brightness, you can't own any color. You change the brightness by one speck and the red is different. But we're talking in the days of paper. For a particular type of paper, there was a particular red. Even now, in airport lounges, Coke pays money to get the lounge painted red in that particular red, in their Coke red, and somewhere 100 meters away you'll find a vending machine. Okay, so kids playing in the lounge, they start feeling thirsty when they see the red. And look at it. The other day I was watching a truck that was carrying a Coles logo. It was a toll truck, it was Coles on red, and it almost read Coke because you're so used to seeing that Coke white text on red that although it is Coles and you can read it's Coles, it still looks like a Coke truck. So that's the impact of color. Anyway, we're digressing here. So we'll go back to cool home pages. Two things: browse here, see how home pages look like, see what you like. What happens is eventually you will start deciding your preferences and you'll allow yourself to get inclined with a particular style, and that becomes your style. You already have that style within you, but you don't know it yet. So by looking at sites and by saying, yeah, that's on cool home pages, but I don't like it, what you're saying is that is not me, that is not my style. This is something I like, this is my style. So you will start finalizing your preferences in design, and it's good to do that because then you can design pretty well. So let's say you have designed, you have had a look at this and you think, okay, I've got some things in my mind, I've got some colors in my mind, I've got some layout in my mind. And bear in mind, in today's world of design, photos play an important role. Own a good camera, take great photographs, everything, even mundane things like a simple mouse on a desk with a shadow, glasses. Take good photographs, have a collection of photographs. You need something for a website, spend some time doing some photography for it. Okay, just 2 lamps, some elementary photography, no drama about copyright. You don't want to get an email from somebody saying, hey, this picture you have used on your website belongs to me, take it down or pay me $200, you know. So just stay clean, really easy. And that's why whenever you Google up stuff, I ask you to try to look for images free of copyright, okay? So let's say you have designed your site, you go and get your rulers and you start pulling the guides. Now I always get 3 guides and I will show you in a second the rule of thirds. So that's 28, right? So I need about 7. So I'll just go 7. I'll go about 14. And you can see that it's sort of locking here. It does tell me that's a third. So I've just got 9, 18, 27 roughly. Another thing I wanted to show you was the rule of thirds. Again, it's agreed upon, used by photographs, and it's not only in 2 dimensions, it even applies in 3 dimensions. And even these things, this classic pattern comes from the rule of thirds. So you divide it into thirds, further thirds, and you start making a graph from the outside, you get this spiral. And you find it, you find the Fibonacci sequence quite often in nature. Fibonacci spiral. So you will find it in nature a million times. This same thing that is derived from the rule of thirds. It is known as the Fibonacci spiral because it follows a particular mathematical equation. And some of you might have done it in maths. See? No? Angel? So there, you'll find the maths for it as well. But again, we're digressing here. So rule of thirds, very important to get your third. So that's about again 18. So I'm going to go 6 and 12. So for example, if I was designing a business card and I did this, I took 1/3, okay, and I filled it with, let's say I'm going yellows and reds, some kind of complementary. So I'd put my logo here, and I'm just going to put some simple graphics here. That's a vector shape. I like to use pixels. I don't like to use shape. I just go pixels, and I'm going to make that into a white color now. Let's say that's my logo there. I'm going to take my text. Now you see this line here. Now even each of these sections, if I want, I can divide this further into thirds. Okay, I can divide each section into thirds and start placing things accordingly. So I'm going to leave this somewhere in the middle third, and let's say I come here, and let's give myself a title. So I press Alt and I get a copy. Title, make it smaller in size. I just did Control T and it increased the font size for me. But there, and I can start right aligning it here. A really long title for me. There you go. And I could do that. I could put a title here if I wanted. Addresses could come here. And let me press the Alt key, make a copy. It's white on white. Let me make it black. Now this could be my company name. My awesome and that could be it could be in my fonts. The point I'm trying to make here is that the rule of thirds will not let you down. Just change the logo here. And then I can get my address, fax, phone, email details below this third. And I'm not going to type the details, but I just want to give you this whole idea that this will work fine. No problem with that. Okay. So if you follow the rules of thirds, whether it's a website, business card, it's always going to work. So I'm just going to take all of these layers, knock them away. Okay, so we are going to follow the rule of thirds, and control and semicolon. Control semicolon will show and hide these guides. Control and semicolon. If you want to know where the thing is, it's view, guides somewhere here, show guides. Yeah, there it is. I forget where the menus are, but that's where it is. So let's start. For my website, I'll apply the thirds at the bottom, but I do need a banner somewhere on top. Okay, what I do with the banner, and you can see I've got these rule of thirds already there. You can see in one of the designs, the lady had suggested a land here. Okay, but we'll just try to get our color scheme in place. So let's say I identify the blues and yellows that we saw earlier. So I'm just going to play in this range and I'm going to play in this range and try and come up with a mock screen, which is your first exercise. Okay, so that's my mock layout to start with. I can choose, and I'm going to use a rounded rectangle. I can choose how my content should appear. So let me say I will have a bigger right column, a 2-column layout, and a smaller. I'm going to pull a guide that snaps on top of this and a guide that snaps at the bottom of this, so that I can have another column on the left of it and snaps in the same height. So let's say I've got these 2 columns and they have the same roundedness. I can do quite a few things to this. The first thing I'm going to do is change the color of this. Image, adjustment, hue, saturation. And I'm doing it here because I don't want to preserve it. Let me take it to somewhere blue. Yeah, that blue was alright. Yep. I'm going to leave some space for the heading of the columns, but the rest I'm going to make into white. So I'm just going to go image, adjustment, hue, saturation, and the lightness. I'm just going to pull it out and it becomes white. So it is still there. It's still there, but it's white. Okay. Let me try something else. If I press Control and click, I get that selection. If I press Control and click, I get that selection. I don't want the bottom to be rounded, or let it be rounded. If I didn't want, I could chop it off with a simple selection. I'll show you just to show you if I did not want it rounded. I would select the bottom, chop it off. Yep, it's chopped off. Control and clicking on a shape will give you the selection. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the dropper tool, get this color, and say edit stroke. I can stroke it here, edit stroke, and I can say stroke inside, stroke outside. So I want to stroke it inside. If I stroke it outside, it'll be a bit funny, but that's outside. I can say edit stroke inside. You can see what I'm doing with the same color. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the stroke here. So whatever is on this layer, I can give it a shadow. And now with CSS3, you don't even have to take images and try and cheat a shadow. You can just get shadows in CSS3. So let's say I'm just trying to plan my look. I've got a shadow and a stroke color. I want this color, and I want a 1 pixel inside. And where's my shadow? You can drag the shadow. You can see you can actually drag it around. Shadow is one of those things you can drag and change the spread of it. And you can even get an inner shadow. One of the third semester students, he wanted a CSS that looked like Instagram. I don't know what it looked like, but it seemed it had an inner shadow. And you can have that if that's what you're going to apply, an inner shadow. You can have an inner shadow in CSS3. You can choose an inner shadow. For now, I'll just leave a shadow and an outline. So let's say that's what my mockup is looking like. And let's say I have something in mind for my left side and I have something in mind for my right side. So I'm going to select the right side, image, adjustment, hue, saturation, and I'm just going to change the hue because then I'll have to change the stroke of it. I'll leave that for now because I've added a stroke to it which is applying to both of them, or I'll just cut it, paste it to a new layer. Yep, image, adjust hue, image, adjustment, hue, saturation, take it to purple, give this guy as, I'll copy this layer style, copy layer style, paste layer style, and here I will change the stroke color to purple, and there, that's okay. So let's say that's the beginning of my plan for my design. The text tool will allow me to put some dummy text. Okay, and if I want to put an image there, I can put an image as well. So let's say we were doing the Viking village theme. I think I have a photo somewhere. Not much of a village, but I'll just take a piece of that photograph, paste it, scale it down. Now we can do rounded rectangles in CSS3, and if I wanted to show it here, it's a bit tricky, but I could show it. All I need to do is I need to make a rounded rectangle on a new layer, a rounded rectangle on a new layer, exactly where the picture is. I'm going to use the move tool, and with the arrow keys I'm just moving it a bit to the right. Now if I place this box below the picture, I've pasted the blue box below the picture, and on the picture I say right click, create clipping mask, I get a nice rounded thing. Now this is all possible with CSS3 now, and I'll just put a bit of an inner shadow and stroke there as well. But let's say I'm just doing a mock without coding. I'm trying to get a feel of whether the client is actually interested in giving me a business or not. Mock screens are great. Okay, mock screens are great for that. Just a bit of an inner shadow, probably put a bit of a stroke here as well. Outside, and now because it's a mask, that stroke is not being seen here, but I need to apply the stroke somewhere down here to the actual mask, and if I apply it here, I will see the stroke. So there it is, the stroke. And let's say I'm going to put my text. So pictures, text, and I'm just dabbling around trying to get a layout, right? So let me try and get a lorem ipsum text from somewhere. I'm just going to delete these text layers. Now what's happening is the text layers are all going inside the mask, which I don't want. So I'm going to add a new layer, come here, add a new layer. In that layer, I'm going to click and drag. Click and drag gives me a paragraph, right? And you must choose your fonts here itself. Font is part of your design. Font is part of your design. The color of the font, the style of the font, it is all design. Because it makes it easier for you when you start doing the CSS. Oh yeah, I chose this font, I chose that color. I didn't like the text to be very black, so I went a bit of gray and blue. And you can start seeing that. You can even start choosing the style of your heading here, and you can go. At this stage, it doesn't need to be actual content. You're still mocking. You're just trying to visualize. You're putting text, images, and blocks. Okay, so you've done a scribble, and now you're just putting text, images, and blocks. Oh, you look at it and you think, oh, maybe it could do with a bit of drop shadow. You can see I'm just playing with the shadows, opacity. and I'll move this a bit here. Working village. Make a copy here. I'll just take this. I'm going to this text here. Sorry, the text here. I'm pressing the Alt key and dragging this across. If I go back to the T bar and I click here, I get these handles. And because I already have got a lot of text in there, I can copy, paste another paragraph. And you can see I've done a fairly neat job. I need a visual and a banner, and then I'm going to stop. It's already about 25 minutes. But this is really the first exercise for you to use Photoshop. Have a play with Photoshop this week, next week, first exercise. You can have the whole of next week as well. But believe me, this will save you a lot of frustration with clients. Once you give this to the client, you get an idea whether the client is a fussy client and whether they're going to make you change things 100 times. I call them NEPs, never ending projects. Oh, can you change this? Oh, can you change that? When I make a mock screen, I look for a reaction. The reaction I look for is the client going, oh, that's awesome, I want to work with you. Or that's, oh no, I didn't like your colors, didn't like your picture, didn't like this, didn't like your font. Then you know that you want to add 20% to your cost. That 20% is for the client who's going to be a pain. I call it a pain cost. You know why? Because if you don't add it, you're going to feel frustrated. Oh no, he's not paying me enough. But because I've added the cost, when you ask for a change, I'm going to say, yeah, okay, I've already charged him for it. So, and this is where you gauge whether you have already got a style of design that you like, that you're going to edge towards. And what you're trying to ascertain is whether the client does like what you like. If the client does not like what you like, it's never going to be a good match. It's going to be an NEP, never ending project. In the younger days, I used to be really, really arrogant, bad. I remember I was working for a company, and the company called me and said the client said they don't want red. I said, why? The red is good. And I'd used a red line as a punch color. The studio said, the client said his mother doesn't like red. I got really furious. I said, the reason for changing that has to be better than his mom not liking red. And I didn't do the job. They got it done from somebody else. Who lost in the end? I lost because I'd already done the whole job and I could have fine-tuned it. But mock screens are really good because you know at this stage, if a client says, hey, I want you to change this blue here in the village. Cool. You click the move tool, right click, go to layer 2 where the blue is, and you go, oh, you don't like the blue. Image, adjust, use saturation. Oh, which one do you like? Just tell me to stop. Oh, you like pink? Yeah, that one. Which one? Oh, this one. Yeah, sure. Bang. Now, this is much easier than you start coding the whole HTML, change the CSS, and client says, oh, I don't like a roundedness here. I want a roundedness here. Change the color. You go, change the color, refresh. Get everything sussed out with the mock screen. When everything is finalized, then you sit and code it up. And even then, I don't commit to the client that it will look like this, because sometimes when you start coding in HTML, CSS, and especially when you have databases, you have to make a lot of compromise on the design. You can say this is a basic guide towards which we will work. So this will be the kind of layout, kind of positioning, and the kind of colors we are going to use. But still, there may be many things that might change here and there because we're going to implement it using HTML, CSS. And if the client is acting too nasty, just show them what HTML, CSS looks like. Just let them have a view and get them to see a minified version of your CSS and say, yeah, you know, I got to change it here. That sort of almost justifies putting a change request cost. We have done a banner on the top, and next week I will work on this one separately because I spend a lot of time on the visual on top. So I'll stop this exercise. Get your basic layout, your grid plan, your boxes. You don't have to have my kind of colors. You can have really anything. You can have a box. You don't even need this at all. See that? It still works fine. You see, the design still works. And you can see the titles. Instead of white, you can If I go to text, I can get my color back. If I choose my blue text, it'll still work. Okay, and probably I don't need a shadow now, but you can see it still works. The layout still works. It still holds whether I use those rounded things or not. If I go to history and culture and I knock off the shadow and I change that to again blue, or let's say brownish red or coppery red, magenta-ish, you see the design still works. Okay, to make it more balanced, you can commit to a footer, and all I'm doing is I'm selecting this portion using the move tool, pressing the alt key, and the alt key, it's your friend. It helps you to make duplicates. There you go. Okay, you want a bit more theming in? Okay, no problem. Under the selection, there is a single row marquee tool. Take a single row, go to the move tool, pressing the alt key, I move this once. I let go of the alt key and I bring it up here, and I have a nice beautiful yellow line. And you can see all of this is really unessential, but the design still holds. It's the column, get your column sorted out, get the picture sorted out, a bit of a picture, get the text font color sorted out, get a banner sorted out. The banner we will work on next week, and by next week we should get a mock screen ready. Again, there's no good or bad for it, but I just want you to get practice in creating mock screens before you start coding up.